Ah, I see you're back again. I presume that you want to hear the rest of the tale. Haven't had enough yet. You need to know what happens. What happens next, that is. Well, you're in luck, as this tale has all but run its course. Deep in the mountains, in a quaint little cottage home, nestled into the side of a very large mountainside, in which sleeps a young man with long flowing silver hair, completely unaware of the events that transpired last night. Slowly he begins to open his eyes, waking for the morning, beginning to push himself out of bed, yawning, stretching a bit, as his feet finally touch the cold stone floor. He can smell breakfast cooking in the other room, so without thinking about it, he simply gets up. "Oh, I must have had a tough day of training," he said to himself as he walked to the door. I don't even remember what happened. After that big thing, it's just a blur. I mean, did that really happen? Or was it a dream? I know that monster was scary. If it was real, my teacher definitely went too far with that, he said as he opened the door and walked into the living area. Far across to the other side, he could see his mother standing in front of the stove, cooking their morning breakfast. There at the table was his newly acquainted grandmother. He had only, of course, just started to get to know her, but she seemed loving enough to his mother, despite the fact that they had been estranged for a great deal of time. He didn't exactly feel as if his grandmother loved him in the same way that his mother did. After all, he was adopted, but he was hoping that he could change that. Looking to the other side of the table, he was actually astonished to see his teacher, not because seeing him was astonishing or strange. It was new, of course. He had only recently found someone interested in training him, but that wasn't what was astonishing about it. What he found astonishing was that his teacher was covered in bandages around his head, his arms, his chest, some even on his legs, covering up tears in his clothing. "Jeez, what happened to you? I thought I was the one who got roughed up." His teacher, a tall man with short-cut white hair, turned to him with a very angry expression. "Oh, what? Do I look banged up, kid? A little worse for wear, maybe? Well, guess what, kid? I don't want to hear the first thing out of it. Out of you. You're the last person who needs to be talking about what shape I'm in. This is all your fault, kid. And just look at you. Not a scratch on you. Ugh, it's infuriating." "What are you talking about? How is that my fault?" Taleon said, as he started to approach the table. "I mean, how could I do that to you? You're an adult, and you have all those crazy powers." His teacher, who went by the name of Salus, extended his hand, placing it on top of Talion's head and firmly gripping it. "Yeah, I do have strange powers, but I didn't know I was training a kid who'd turn into a monster if he got pushed a little too far. Which, if you ask me, is a little much. You don't even realize it, do you? If killing you was all that was required, I could have done it easily. But no. I had to make sure that you were alive and well afterwards. So I had to hold back. Make sure I didn't do anything too drastic. All so you wouldn't end up dead. And just look at you. Every bruise, scuff, and scrape healed without a sign. It's that high-level demon's blood of yours, Silas said, still tightly gripping Talion's head and looking down at him furiously. All it takes is a night's sleep and you're just back to normal. Even if I had run you through, I bet you'd still have healed from it. Ugh, high-level demons have no idea how easy they have it. This is going to take me weeks to heal. But I have no time to relax because I have to continue your training. So for the time being, I'm very annoyed with you. So why don't you do me a favor and go outside and play for a while I think of what should be the next step. I need to make sure you don't have another one of those freak-out sessions, he said, sitting back in his chair a bit and finally releasing Talion's head. Jeez, whatever, Talion replied as he started making his way towards the door. I'm gonna go outside and play a little bit, okay, Mom? He said, looking to his mother. Melody turned to him, stepping away from the stove for a short time, leaning down and giving him a hug. I'm so glad you're okay. Now remember, be careful and don't wander off too far. I know, Mom, he said as he exited, walking out of the door of the quaint little cottage home and traipsing off into the woods. Ugh, what's his problem? Talion talked to himself as he was walking, beginning to pick up pace away from his house. I mean, what kind of teacher is he anyways? What if I did have a little freak-out session or something? I mean, really, he should have been able to handle it. What kind of a teacher can't beat a 10-year-old? I mean, really, he said as he briskly ran through the woods. I think I'll go check where I was training last. See how much of that was real, he said to himself as he ran through, beginning to leap between the trees to make good time over the terrain, something that he had become accustomed to, as living in these conditions was normal for him. It didn't take long for him to reach the area where he was training. However, what he found was far from what he expected. Before he even reached the area, he could already begin to smell smoke, as if there was fire, and as he approached, getting closer, he was completely dumbfounded to find a massive clearing, one where there wasn't one before. Talion leaped down from the tree, landing to the hard stone ground, and as he looked out at this massive clearing, it was like nothing he had ever seen before, like he had stepped into a completely different world. Everything, for hundreds and hundreds of yards in every direction, was completely destroyed. There used to be forest here. I mean, there was a clearing nearby, but it was nowhere near this big. As Talion looked about, he could see smoke still rising from segments, as if there were still small embers burning away. The tree line that had once encompassed this place was completely gone, now moved hundreds upon hundreds of yards back in every direction, as if it was burnt down. There were massive craters everywhere, slashes and carves in the ground. As he ran about looking from place to place, some of them looked like the stone itself had been melted, still emanating great amounts of heat. It of course didn't bother Talion. He was basically invulnerable to fire, at least as far as he knew, and heat was no different. But he did not expect this terrain. What could have happened here? And then he remembered that his teacher said that he turned into a monster, that he was the one who injured him. And at that point, Talion stood up, beginning to gaze around in all directions, looking at the massive amounts of destruction, massive clearings blown into the forest, where it looks like everything had burnt away, craters and slashes in the ground filled with fiery heat. Was this really him? Did he really do this? Could he have done this? In that very instant, Taleon was actually afraid of himself. How could he do all of this and not remember it? It doesn't make any sense. He never had this kind of power before. Why would he have it now? He didn't feel any different than he usually does, he thought to himself as he raised his hands, beginning to look at them. They don't look any different. It was at that point Taleon heard a loud shout. Ow! Ow, 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 ow! Taleon quickly whipped around, trying to gauge where the voice was coming from, and rapidly he began to run in that direction. He began to hear scraping and scuffing, and as he moved in the direction, he found a sizable crater. Approaching the crater at speed, he stopped as he reached the edge. Peering in, he saw what appeared to be another child. Someone by the appearance who looked about the same age as him. At the center of the crater, there was a sizable portion of melted rock that still seemed to be emanating a great deal of heat. And there, in the crater, trying to scramble their way out, unsuccessfully, was a child, about his age, with long blue hair, wearing somewhat tattered clothing. Hey, who are you? He said, looking into the crater at the child. At the moment, it appeared as if they didn't notice him until he spoke up. Afterwards, they looked directly up at him, and a look of fear ran across their face. I'm sorry, I'm really, really sorry, I'll leave. By all appearances, it was a girl, simply scrambling, trying to pull her way out of the hole. At first, Taleon was a bit confused, but without any hesitation, he jumped down into the hole, grabbing the girl around the waist, and with one big jump, leaping out of the crater, the girl along with him. As he touched down on the outside, releasing her, the girl just stood there shaking for a moment before dropping to her knees. Rika, sorry. Rika is very sorry. She will go immediately. Please don't hurt Rika. Whoa, calm down, Taleon said. I'm not going to hurt you, but that only serves the question of, who are you? I mean, you say your name is Rika, right? Where did you come from? How did you get out here? And why are you out here? Rika thanks you, she said, still bowing her head and refusing to get up off her knees. Do not be angry at Rika, Mighty One. Please, Rika was just hungry. So Rika was eating some of Mighty One's leftovers. Eating? What the world was there to eat out here? Taleon thought to himself. And why was she calling him Mighty One? This was very strange. If you want food, I think we have some. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to eat around here. But my mom's cooking dinner right now if you want something. So, you'll feed Rika? She said, starting to pick her head back up. As she looked up at him, he began to note differences. Finally, he could clearly see her face. Up close, he thought she was rather cute, but there was also something else about her. She had very sharp teeth, unlike his own, which only had a few sharp teeth. Her mouth seemed to be lined with nothing but razor-sharp teeth, every single one of them. Her eyes were also different, having somewhat of an extra ring in them that glowed a sort of rainbowish color, bouncing back and forth between all of the different colors and hues. And she had strange markings on her face, as if she had tattoos. So Mighty One will feed Rika. If Mighty One feeds Rika, then Rika will do whatever Mighty One says. Mighty One agrees? The girl said, extending her hand. Sure, I suppose. I'll get you something to eat. No problem, he said, as he extended his hand down, clasping it with hers. And just at that moment, there was suddenly a strange glow over the girl, a blue wavy energy that Taleon had never seen before. The glow floated there for a few moments, and then dissipated. And then a wide smile crept across the girl's face as she stood up from her knees rapidly, taking a few steps forward and then hugging Taleon very tightly. Rika is happy. Rika will do good, she promises. Rika has never had a master before. She did not expect such a mighty one. Rika is undeserving, she said as she dropped back to her knees for a moment, beginning to bow again. Whoa. Slow down, Taleon replied. What do you mean, master? I'm not your master. You just wanted something to eat, and I told you could have it. Yes, that is how we work. Rika is Eco. Eco? Taleon said. What is an Eco? Eco is parasite. What? Taleon asked. What do you mean, parasite? It's simple, the girl said, raising one finger. An Eco is a demon, just like Master. But we're small, weak. We no eats what regular people eats. We feeds on demonic energy. Rico was wandering around, gobbling up the bits of leftover demonic energy from Mighty One's fierce battle when Mighty One found her. But we we bind ourselves to masters. When an Eco finds someone who is willing to accept them as their property, then we make deal. Master gives us demonic energy, and in exchange, we Eco belong to them and do whatever they tell us to. So, Rico is an Eco, and Rico is now your property. Okay, I think there's been a big misunderstanding, Taleon said, completely befuddled with the situation. I don't know what I just got myself into. But the blue-haired girl just stood there, smiling at him, with rows of sharp teeth on display, as if it was the happiest day of her life.